newsletter and all of these channels almost like breadcrumbs.
I think that's the dotted line, right, between the data and what's working.
I have 5 pieces of content, which is the one that resonates most with them.
Start a newsletter, do a newsletter.
Yes, do it.
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Out and About podcast, where we break down all things marketing and financial services. What's working, what's not working, whether you've been in the marketing seat your whole career for decades, or you've just put on the marketing hat, we're here to support you, bringing you into all the conversations that our team has while we're making the play calls and watching firms grow. Welcome. So, episode number 1. Today we have with us Jimmy, our Marketing Analytics Director. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Today we're talking about all things newsletters. In fact, the next few episodes we're talking about all things newsletters. We get tons of questions about that. But before we dive in, Jimmy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Episode 1, exciting. I'm the Marketing Analytics Director. I look at everything that's data related, how it can help us make better decisions on just actually almost everything. And like websites, newsletters, just basically everything that we touch, as long as that's data. Excited to be on episode number 1 and talking to you about newsletters, exciting stuff that we have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, next few episodes will be about newsletters. We get tons of questions, so we're going to answer them. But today in particular, we have Jimmy with us, so we're going to talk about how to know if your newsletters are engaging. That's the official title, but basically how to know they're working. Are people engaging with them? Is it worth your time? Is it worth the effort, the money that goes into it? All that good stuff. So, like I said, episode number 1. So we're going to break this down. We're going to start out for our episodes with kind of what are we saying yes to this week? We love a positive vibe anytime we start a meeting or anything like that. So we're going to just talk through what are we saying yes to, especially when it comes to newsletters. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course. I'm going to say data. We have to. I'm saying yes to data. Data is good. It helps us, it just helps us make decisions with confidence. I think we always kind of have that bit of a gut instinct of like what we think we should do, and that comes with experience. I think data just helps to gives us that validation sometimes, although sometimes it's validation against the gut instinct, but still that kind of tension, that push and pull. I think it's really good. So definitely saying yes to that. What about you?
I'm saying yes to just all things newsletters. They get a bad rap because I think we've had email with us for so long that we're always looking for the next shiny object, the next cool thing. And I think emails just kind of, I don't know, they just get boring to people. And so it starts to get, is it worth our time? I don't see it working, right? These are always the things, but owning that list is powerful, right? So social media, all those other platforms, we don't own it. When it comes to email, owning the list is powerful. So I'm just saying yes to having a newsletter and making it align with your brand, align with your business goals, all that good stuff. But saying yes to newsletters. And also, I have another one. Also saying yes to more personal items in newsletters, which we're going to talk more about in future episode, but getting just a little more personal, a little less automated.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I would say, definitely to just being intentional about newsletters. It is worth your time if you put in the time, right? Like what do you want to do with your newsletters? What is the purpose? Don't get into it just because everyone has a newsletter, so must we. But like, why is your newsletter? What does it do? What do you want it to do? Who's it going out to? And then where does it sit on the funnel? Like, is it kind of more at the top? This is where you get people to notice you, or is it kind of more at the bottom where you really kind of like try to, get your prospects to make that added leap, that little tiny step towards contacting you? Yeah.
That's such a good point. So maybe we should kind of take a step back and just talk about like what is an email newsletter, right? And like how can we use it? I love what you just said about where does it sit in the funnel? Like, we're talking to prospects? Are we talking to clients? So maybe we need to kind of take a step back. What is an email newsletter? We all know what it is, but what can it be doing? So let's define it.
Yeah, I can go first, I guess. Newsletter, I think really just is one like marketing channel in which you can say a lot more than say on a social media where you just really have that, I don't know, what is the latest like word count or character count, but you're limited by that, right? So you need to be really quick to get their attention. But newsletters, you have the attention of the reader who's opening their email, and then you just have a little bit more time and you can pack a little bit more things into it. But then that is also when you have to be just really intentional about what exactly goes into your newsletter. Is it to
Mm.
educate? Is it to, provide more information? What is it? And how did people get into your newsletter? That's also important. Like, what about your list? Are these all your prospects? Are these all your clients? Do you have your centers of influence? Like, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so much to dive into there. Let's put a pin in what you just said and go back to because it reminded me of something when you're talking about like email newsletter activity versus social media, which they don't necessarily have to be against each other, but if we're talking about them, social media, you're always beholden to the algorithm, right? So you can have this is your world, Jimmy, but so I'm gonna speak into it. But you can have 1,000 followers, you can post something, those 1,000 followers are not all gonna see it. Like it's the reality of the algorithm, right? But if you have an email newsletter list of 1,000 people, 1,000 people could all open it. I mean, there's no technological hindrance to them all seeing it, right? There's no algorithm that's like, just kidding. We're suppressing it to a certain number of people. So I think that's why it's so powerful too. You really can see.
that is a that is such a great point. MailChimp, MailerLite, constant contact. It is not in their benefit to say, nope, not today. I'm just gonna show 200 of their 1,000 people on the newsletter list. Like that's not how it works. So yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. And we don't have to get into it, but that's the issue right on the social media side. Like it would be nice if you were, paying some money to get that out more. So kind of this in the social media platform's best interest to maybe pull it back a little bit and see what people are engaging with. So speaking of what people are engaging with, let's talk about newsletters. So we get the reason we're talking about this first is because we get this question every time we work with a client. Should I be sending a newsletter? Is it worth my time? And we get a lot of, I don't want to call it negativity, but like automatic no's. Like, I don't want to send newsletters. They don't work, or they're old school, or I don't want to bother people. So we can set the bother people part aside. We'll talk about a little bit more about that next week too. But how do we know if they're working? They don't work. This is what people say. They don't work. So, what would you say, Jim?
Yeah, that is true. The most frequent kind of like feedback would be, oh, but why? I don't know about newsletters. I think part of that is also because it takes time. It takes time, right? It takes time. It takes work. It requires resources, and then if you kind of again, kind of going back to what we talked about, right? If you don't kind of know specifically what you want your newsletter to do, without knowing that, then you won't really also know how to know if your newsletter is working, right? Like, oh, I want to educate, I want brand awareness, and then if you set that out as objective, then you would be like, okay, based on that, these are the things I would look at in terms of data to know if my newsletter is working. So
Mhm.
I would say the next most frequent question will be, how do I know if my newsletters are working? Also known as, how do I know if my newsletters are engaging? I think that is really important to kind of look at, hence the topic of this podcast. And I would start off really with just open rate, right? Open rate's so important. That is how we know like how many people actually opens our email. Like earlier you said, if you have 1,000 people on your list, you send it out assuming your list is pristine, nothing wrong, no typos. 1,000 gets successfully delivered, but how many people actually open it?
Yeah.
That gives you the open rate. That is really good because I mean, that's the first sign of knowing, right? I mean, in order for me to click on something, I have to open it first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't even know if you have this in front of you. So forgive me because we didn't talk about it before. But can you give us a general idea of like what is a good open rate, at least especially in our world, financial services?
Yeah, I would say if I look at some of the data that we have, that, you know, like among our clients and just what I observe, I would say a typical pretty good open rate would be around in the mid 60s%.
Ooh, okay, higher than I thought. Okay.
It's higher than we thought. And also if you look at if you start doing like, perhaps some of the listeners will be like Googling. If you Google, you will see all different kinds of benchmarks. It is not that easy to find financial services benchmarks. But if you do find them, it varies and sometimes it could go a little bit lower. Um, but yeah, sometimes, also just looking at research, looking at data, we also have to know what is the sample size, what goes into the data. But yeah, it sounds a little bit high, but that's what we see.
Okay. And like you said, it does vary because it depends. When we say it's financial services, it's pretty broad, right? So banks, sort of retail type of places, they have I think you said have a little bit higher open rate. It's more on the retail side. Am I making that up? Feel free to say.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because when you look at financial services, sometimes, when you search for data, it will say finance, or if you're lucky, financial services.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you really don't know if they include banks or are they really segregating it. Because then again, if you think about how they collect the data, they're collecting like fashion, beauty, just big categories, right? So unlikely that they're really going to split it. If you look at the fine print, most of them do include banks. And once you include banks, I mean, just just think of us, just think of yourself. When you receive an email from a bank, you're most likely gonna open it, right? Because it could be a statement, it could be something about like, hey, something's wrong with your account. Um, yeah.
So a lot of our clients are more in the wealth management, RIA space, even well, there's others too, but a little smaller, right, than like America's First National Bank, whatever. Um, so do you generally see those open rates a little lower in those spaces?
Yeah, I would think in if we talk about like banks and all that, also we have to keep in mind they have like huge,
Yeah.
probably, in the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands in their list. So, and once you mix everything in, it's likely gonna just reach an average, right? But if we look at our clients and why, the number just sounds like, wow, like 60s, that sounds really high. Then again, it's very intentionally kind of
Mm,
curated, that list, so people really opt in. It's not so like mass, and as such, you're kind of more or less guaranteed a certain sense of interest in what you have to say,
mhm.
which kind of then goes back to why is it worth your time? Because if you curate your list properly, it is worth your time,
Mhm.
and people do open it, and they will. Yeah, that's the first step, right? Getting them to open an email.
Yeah, and the content matters too, but
Mhm.
we'll call it in another podcast. I know you want to talk about some other data points.
Yeah, so like I said, open rates, that is a clear indication of, is your subject line working? Is it engaging? Like, are you making people want to open your emails? I do want to, before I move on to some other metrics, I do want to mention that if you are using MailChimp, it is good to know that there is a function where you can exclude this thing called the MPP, which is now I gotta look at my notes, the mail privacy protection. And this is something that Apple does. So what it does is, in order to protect, your privacy, when you receive a mail, it actually automatically downloads to its own servers, which sends a message to MailChimp to kind of, it is similar to another person, say on an Android phone opening an email. It triggers the same response, but MailChimp does know that that is something that Apple does. So it'll be good to exclude that because it could artificially kind of inflate your open rates and,
Um,
you know, the your decisions are as good as your data, right? So if your data is clean, then that's how it can help you make it better decisions. So that's the one thing that I wanted to mention. But yeah, kind of moving on, once you go past open rates, the next thing that I would say is really that key thing about whether your actual content beyond the subject line, whether your actual content is engaging, click rates. How is your click rate? Also, when you look at click rates, when you look at clicks, you're gonna see different columns. You have seen unique clicks, you're gonna see total clicks. Just real quick, unique clicks just means the number of individuals that actually click it. So I'm not so if say two of us, right? If you click twice on the link and I click one time, the unique clicks would be two because there's just two of us. But the total clicks would be three clicks.
mm-hmm.
So that's good to look at, and then from that, it will actually count your click rate. Also, it's worth some time to just go into the marketing platform you use and look at how they define the metric, the click rate, and how they calculate it. Because some would calculate it based on clicks over emails delivered, some would do it on clicks over emails open.
Okay.
Whatever it is that you choose, just stay consistent.
Okay.
Right? You don't want to be measuring against one this month and then measuring against another month.
Perfect. Okay. Any other data we should be looking at? Okay.
And while you go into click rates, there's this little fun thing called the click map.
Okay.
Fascinating, one of my favorite things. When you go into click map, so click rates really just tell you how many people are engaging to your content as a whole, right? Like, oh, I had like 200 clicks this month, I had 100 clicks. So that gives you like, say maybe out of 1,000 people, that gives you like an indication of how well the content is resonating or engaging, going back to our podcast title. But you want to know like deep within that, which like specifically I have 5 pieces of content, which is the one that resonates most with them. That is where your click map is helpful. Go into it, it will show you, at least on MailChimp, what your email looks like, and then all the clickable items would show next to it, like a little pop-up that shows how many people click on it, or rather how many clicks. Being very, very careful here. We're not talking unique clicks, we're talking total clicks. How many clicks have that link garnered?
Okay.
So that will tell you, you could just, look at it from a top-down view of your email. On the side, there will also be a table that you can sort by like, give me the most popular, and it will just show you like which is the most popular thing that people click on. And from there, you can make, kind of hypothesis about like, oh, I think it could be this, it could be the visual, it could be this is just really very newsworthy. So, we hit the jackpot. It came out at the right time. People are reading about it.
Okay. Any other data points you want to look at? I have a question, but I don't want to totally derail us because I know.
I would say probably when it comes to engagement, these will be the two, open rates and then click rates.
Okay. So going all the way back to sort of the purpose of the emails, I want to explore this a little bit because there's so many purposes of an email that I think then help us understand these data points and how that relates to whether or not it's working, right? Because working probably means more business, right? So I just want to talk a little bit about kind of these data points and how they relate to, okay, is this going out to clients? If so, what do we want clients to do versus is it a colder prospect list? What do we want them to do? So I think that's the dotted line, right, between the data and what's working to like what's working. Okay, backing up. So, this podcast for all of you listening is for you in the marketing seat. You probably have someone that you have to be accountable to. So that's what we want to support you in, right? Like when you say it's working, they want to see the bottom line. So how can we connect those dots?
I think just really, often it'll be really clean if you have the time and resources to
Mm,
say, I have one email or newsletter going out to COIs, I have one going out to prospects, I have one going out to clients. But also, often we know that resources are just limited.
yeah.
So we combine them and then we have all our lists together. I would say then kind of go into your content because the way you structure it will probably be, okay, I'm going to write about this. This is for my clients. We're going to talk about, what is happening in the economy, how will it affect their investments, things like that. And then maybe somewhere down the line, I will have something about, maybe I have just leads that are getting warmer, and then I want them to know like, hey, these are the people that you'll be dealing with.
Mm,
I want to feature my team, right? So I will put my team in there. So how would you know if it's working? I think let's just use those two examples, right? One is on the economy, one's on the team, and then let's say you post something else. When you go in and you look at the number of clicks, then you would see like, oh, people are clicking. I have like 50 clicks on the team. This team member or just this thing that I wrote about my team, right? I think what's really interesting will be number one, the quantity of clicks versus your newsletter list versus how many people open it. Like you get an indication. You don't really need to go right down to let me calculate it and get a percentage. I mean, you do get a feel.
mhm.
Another way would be, at least within MailChimp, again, not paid by MailChimp, but just that, we use MailChimp a lot, right? So I'm really familiar with it. When you click into the people who actually, you can actually click into this link that shows you who are the ones that click on your email, on your specific content. So
Mhm.
say that thing about the team members content, you're like, hey, this is really interesting. You can click into it. Look at like who are the ones clicking onto it. If it's one of your prospects, that's like jackpot, right?
Wow.
Maybe it's time to think about, is this somebody we just spoke to recently? We just got on a call. Like maybe it's time to, that's a sign,
Yeah.
follow up, send something else. Yeah.
Yeah. We're big fans of getting in there and finding out um, who's in there. The thing with a newsletter, which we love, is it's a bit more automated. So we recommend, really curating like you were saying. Um, but it is sort of a mass automation, but then finding out ways to follow up really personal later, if there are people that are engaging with it a lot. That's, I was just going to add too. So I think part of making those connecting those dots is again really figuring out sort of what you want people doing, right? So if it's clients, you want to be probably educating them, helping them understand that you're on top of things for them. You're researching the latest legislation or things like that, like helping really build that have value in their mind so that they will hopefully refer. And we can even you can talk about that in the newsletter potentially, that keeping them aware of the team, like you said. We're going to talk about more about that next week, but yeah, that'll be my takeaway in a minute. More about the team. But then if it's prospects, it's probably you want to be pulling them down the funnel. Like you want to stay top of mind,
Exactly.
want them on their website. You want them, yeah, just engaging more with your content and helping you stay top of mind with them. So that can be fun as well.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I want to say this before I forget. I think we have to look at newsletter not as a like an end in itself.
Yes.
I think the end in itself would almost always be the prospect, the lead becoming a prospect, and then contacting us and then becoming client. That'll be the end in itself. But really, all the work that goes into that is really a means to an end, right? And also worth spending some time. That's why it's worth spending time to say, all right, what do I have on my plate? I have LinkedIn, I have a newsletter, I have a website.
Yes.
How do each one play their role, right? This is like it's like putting together a play. Everybody has their role and then it tells a story and then it comes to a conclusion. And the conclusion that we want is really people getting interested in us. So I think we have to think of newsletter and all of these channels almost like breadcrumbs leading one to another and then kind of creating that closed loop and understanding that the journey is not linear. You
Yeah.
do not look at one LinkedIn post go to the website. And then it's not like that. You kind of do this, you fall off a little bit, and then you receive a newsletter, you go back, you click, you go to the website, you fall off a little bit, and then you go like, oh, I'm following their LinkedIn page. They send something. Oh, this is really interesting. And then over time, right? Yeah,
Yeah, you build the trust.
it all adds up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long sales cycle, in this field, and just staying top of things.
Yeah.
I love
What's
the
the?
breadcrumb analogy, and now we need like a breadcrumb in a loop.
I know.
A loop breadcrumb.
Like what's that? The Hansel and Gretel,
Yes.
right? All the
A
breadcrumbs.
circle. Yes.
Yeah, leading to the the location that you want. Yeah. So I think it's so important to know what each thing, each tool that you have, what role it plays, and how to just really be that master conductor, right? Like, ooh,
Love it.
I'm gonna do this and that, and then make sure everything, everyone has its role. You just need to make sure they're all playing their role properly, and then you get good results. And also, wanting to add, we all know in this space the sales cycle is long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's what's that phrase? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably important with the data too. So, keeping an eye on your open rate, your click rate, but it's not all based on that last email.
Oh, yes. Don't, yeah. I think look for trends
Yeah.
and not for like, flashes where like, ooh, this was really high, and then let's just keep talking about this, but
Like
maybe
it.
that's just not in the news cycle anymore. So don't make like decisions from newsletter to newsletter. I would say maybe the recommendations look at three. If you send one on a monthly basis, look at three, which all this stuff to add. The other thing would be frequency. Keep up that frequency. If you're only sending one newsletter a year or every few months, it gets a little bit more challenging. Frequency helps because then you could really see if it's a trend or if it's just isolated to one newsletter.
Perfect. All right. I know we're going for
We
days.
could talk about this forever. Yeah.
I know. So we always want to end each episode with kind of the one thing you should go do next, first.
Yes.
However you want to say it. So Jimmy, what's the one thing?
Okay, everyone should expect this, but the one thing is do not, well, let me start over. The one thing is, if you haven't already, look at your data dashboard. Be it MailChimp, MailerLite, Constant Contact, look at your data dashboard. It can look overwhelming at the beginning, but just take that first look at what's available in terms of metrics, understand what each metric means. That is what I would like all of you to do as a baby first step. Just know that, let it sit with you. That is the key takeaway. Other things can come later on, but minimally just go in, take a look, and yeah.
I love it. I love it. Cool. So yeah, our other big takeaway is start a newsletter. Do a newsletter. Worth it.
Yes, do it.
Just
Because
do it.
otherwise you won't have any data to look at. So you need to start first.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Jimmy, for making the time. I love all these analogies. I feel like we need to go. I was going to say to our ChatGPT, but maybe to our design team to make these into real.
I know.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our first episode of the Out and About podcast. We're so excited to be rolling these out a few times a month. You can expect to kind of be able to hop in with our team and hear about what's working and what's not. So make sure you subscribe wherever that happens. And you can also hop over to outandaboutcommunications.com/community and join the newsletter list.
Yes.
Of course, newsletter.
Newsletter about newsletters.
That's right. But we're all about kind of building a community of like-minded marketing folks. So grab that. We have a ton of resources that we're going to be sending out. Obviously, podcast information when that goes live. So we'll have the links in the show notes and all that kind of stuff. So
We do not gatekeep. So all the good stuff in the newsletters.
That's right. Exactly. So join us and tune in next time. We're going to keep talking about newsletters.